Hi! Today we're going to talk about the difference between summarizing and analyzing a piece of literature. It can often get confusing trying to differentiate between simple plot summary or rewording what is in a text versus creating your own original idea about the significance of the excerpt that you are analyzing. So today we are going to look a little bit into the difference between summarizing and analyzing and how to maneuver the two. So first we're going to get into the definition of summarizing, and that is relaying information that is already in the text or paraphrasing or rewording what you have already read. An example of this, we are going to use an excerpt of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. So if you could just pause your video right here and read this to yourself. And then an example of a summary would be, in the novel of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, Lenny is afraid that George is mad at him. George reassures him that he is not mad and that they can get the place they had always hoped for right now. This calms down Lenny and prepares George to pull the trigger. So the reason that this is a summary versus an analysis is that everything in that little paragraph can be found in the text above it. For example, Lenny is afraid that George is mad at him. This can be found in Lenny said, "I thought you was mad at me, George." Or George reassures him that he is not mad. We can see that in "No," said George. "No, Lenny, I ain't mad. I never been mad, and I ain't now. That's the thing I want you to know." So as you can see, it's just paraphrasing what Steinbeck already wrote. And another reason that it is summarizing is that the quotes that are added, while they are added seamlessly in its perfect quote integration, they do not contribute to an original idea or stating why the text is significant. It only furthers the summary of the text previously read. For example, they can get that place they had always hoped for right now. Again, just restates what is in the text, as does prepares George to pull the trigger. So now that we know a little bit more about summarizing, we're going to look at why analyzing is different. So the definition of analyzing is using the information in the text to make an original statement that speaks to the effects and or theme of the work, and it is developing your own ideas about the significance of the text. An example of this, using the same excerpt, would be, in the novel of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, George shoots Lenny in the head after calming down his nerves. Right before he shoots the gun, George's hand shakes violently, while Lenny lay without quivering on the ground after he dies. Steinbeck's juxtaposition of George's shaking hand and Lenny's still body displays the nerves and emotional pain that George had to endure in order to let Lenny be at peace. By including this juxtaposition and emphasizing the emotional trauma George experiences, Steinbeck brings to light the burdening decisions that can come with a deep relationship. George did not want to kill Lenny, but he knew that the only way for Lenny to find peace and get that place of his dreams was for him to stop having to run from the world and just die in peace. This decision conveys that love is a sacrifice. So before we get into why that is an analysis versus why it would be a summary, we're going to look at the technique that many people use in order to analyze a text, and it is a very effective way, so hopefully it makes it a little bit easier for you, and then we can apply it to that previous analysis. So it is called choice effect. So what? By choice, we mean a significant decision by an author that moves the plot or develops a character, and it is often accompanied by a literary device. So it is a conscious choice or decision by the author. It is something that they included for a specific purpose. The effect is, what response does it elicit? Is it an emotional response? Does it come with a revelation? What does it display about the character or the situation or the setting? Why is it so significant? Why did the author include it? And then we go to the so what. And the so what is kind of the effect of the effect, or the overall purpose behind including that text. So it can contribute to the purpose of the novel, or it can tie into a greater theme. Often the so what will be kind of a universal theme that can be applied not only to the text that you are analyzing, but also to other novels or short stories or other pieces of literature. So now applying this to the analysis that we just read, the choice in this analysis is Steinbeck's juxtaposition of George's shaking hand and Lenny's still body. So Steinbeck purposely included that juxtaposition. And the effect that has on the audience or just in general, is that it displays the nerves and emotional pain that George had to endure in order to let Lenny be at peace. So by pairing George's shaking hand and Lenny's still body, it's more evident that George had to give up something and put himself through pain in order for Lenny to be at that peace, which brings us to our so what. And the effect brings to light the burdening decisions that can come with a deep relationship, and it conveys that love is a sacrifice. So love as a sacrifice would be that theme, and that can be applied to a number of different texts and pieces of literature, but it is also applicable to the specific excerpt that we chose. So as you can see, they kind of build off of one another and build to a greater theme or purpose, but it does not just stay at including a quote and leaving it there. So that kind of gives you a little bit more insight into summarizing versus analyzing, and we're just going to bring you to a few questions to ask yourself in order to check and make sure you are analyzing rather than summarizing. So ask yourself if what you chose or what you're saying is significant. The answer should be yes, it should be there for a purpose. Is your analysis arguable? Is what you wrote something that maybe another person could interpret differently? They might interpret that quote in a different way, and that is perfect. You should not just be saying something that is in the text. You should not just be repeating it, which brings us to our next question. Can you find it directly in the text? The answer should be no. You should be able to find the quote in the text, but then what comes after it should be your own interpretation of that that situation or that character development. Is it an original idea? Yes, it should be your own thoughts. Do you directly assess an author choice? Yes, that goes into choice effect, so what? And it is good to include the author's name, like Steinbeck's juxtaposition, because that directly credits the author's choice and keeps you from falling into the trap of plot summary by saying, oh, well, George did this or Lenny did that. But by crediting the author, that makes it more effective. Do you discuss the effects? Hopefully yes, if you're using choice effect, so what? And do you address the purpose of the text and or a larger theme? And that goes back to your so what. So hopefully this was helpful in looking at why analyzing is different from summarizing, but also why analyzing is more effective in looking at a piece of literature. And I hope that this video helps you with future papers. Thank you.